Welcome to Showing Up with Lynsey Dyer. I'm Lynsey for Picnic and co-founder of SheJumps.org. I help mentor people to level up their ski skills and connect with big mountains all over the world. I also help people find their homes or businesses in and around the Tetons. Now in our 7th season of the Showing Up podcast, I continue to sit down with those I consider unicorns of our time to hear the stories and philosophies that can help us all step into our own unique weird, have the courage to do the thing, and to fully show up for this one wild and precious life. Let's dive right in. Dropping in. I've got Sophia Schwartz. The two of us have been mentored by a very special woman that we are about to interview together. Listens to a lot of podcasts. I think she's really smart. She also represents the nerds for everyone out there. We support the nerds, and also she was born in 1990. So I really want to get her perspective and her represent because you're smart and you got good things to say. And we are here to interview my cousin AJ, who has been my mentor for years and years. Let's just paint a picture of where we are to start. Describe for someone who's driving in that car what you're looking at and set the tone of where we are.
Well, we are sitting in the Grizzly Cabin at Majestic Heli-Ski near Palmer, Alaska. And Sophie and I were both invited on this trip through Lynsey to do some filming and explore that relationship that we've all built around our main passion in life, which is skiing, our first love, our true love, our soulmate. Yeah, it's fear. And around the relationships we've built in forming friendships. But in the end, you could put another label on it, and that would be mentorship.
Definitely. And AJ, this is my first time to Alaska, but you've been up here before. What brought you to Alaska the first time?
So competing in free ride comps before they were called free ride, they were called extreme skiing competitions. And there were very few in the States at the time, but that was the only place they were being held. And the finals were in Valdez, Alaska, the WESC event, World Extreme Ski Championship.
That's awesome.
Bringing it back.
Yeah. And what was like the format? Was it a one-run comp? Was it multiple days? How did that go for you?
That's a good question because I think what we know of as free ride comps now is quite a bit different than what it was. It was a battle of attrition. The feeder events that earned you a spot in Alaska were sometimes 5 days long and multiple runs a day. Yeah, like a qualifier run and then 2 runs a day until the finals. Maybe you had 1 run, maybe you had 2 runs that day. But with like my first comp being finals on Body Shoots at Crested Butte and really amazing places.
I want to take it back there a little bit, back to the beginning of what your relationship with skiing.
Okay, so I'll try to be short, but
don't be short.
I think I learned how to ski. I learned how to ski in Michigan at probably the age of 4 between my neighbor's legs, Mrs. Nemi, at a tiny ski area called Cannonsburg, 200 vertical. But as 4 or 5, 6-year-olds, we were only on the rope tow and holding on for our lives on a frozen 1-inch diameter cloth rope that's been dragged through the snow for 12 hours at a time, wearing our jeans and our mittens and going out with my brother and sister, family and neighbors. And that's kind of what we did occasionally in Michigan. So I learned and skied all through my younger years, but it was an occasional weekend thing, an occasional trip throughout the year somewhere in northern Michigan for a fun weekend until my parents decided to move our family from Grand Rapids, Michigan to Sun Valley, Idaho. We had been there on 1 ski vacation in our lives. That was our big ski vacation, our first time ever out west the year before, but we were visiting my mom's sister, Marcia Dyer.
My mom.
Yeah, Lynsey's mom. And we stayed in the cool 70s A-frame with her and her boyfriend, and she cooked these elaborate meals. It was like, I think we had fun too. Like literally, like
I've never heard this story.
And Marcia is tiny woman, and I was 11 years old. She ended up dressing my sister, myself, my mom, and herself. Still doing it to this day.
Oh, like telling you what to wear?
Well, yeah, pretty much. Still into the ski apparel, very much so.
Mm-hmm.
And
is this when she was designing her own line?
No, it was before then. She was dating Bob Zach.
I don't know. I've never heard that story.
We call him Zach.
My mom before my dad?
Yeah, and
weird.
He was like this rugged, handsome 70s guy, sort of Tom Selleck style with like parted hair, blonde surfer style in the middle with longish hair and the bushy, longer mustache, like a total hunk. Anyway, I don't think he had blonde hair. I think he had dark curly hair, but like Tom Selleck.
Right. I swear that's what she said my dad looked like.
He was such a like stud. And it was her boyfriend, and it was just so cool. And we got to go skiing in Sun Valley.
What was that like coming from Michigan and going to a mountain like Sun Valley? What was that experience?
Pretty good story here. My parents are like, they're not going on the baby slope. They're going straight to the top. Let's get on the lift. And they took us straight up Warm Springs all the way to the top. I think it was a double chair. Well, probably 2 chairs.
Oh my gosh. So that was like quad 6/10 bigger than any ski mountain you had been on.
Oh, yeah.
So what was that like?
Oh, we were scared to death, all of us at the top. But I don't know, once you start skiing, a lot of times you get your body in motion and some of that fear is erased by joy. And I think maybe I caught that understanding, that bug early on that, yeah, it might be a little scary, but if you push through the fear just a little bit, you find this other side, that pure joy, ecstasy, like wind in your face. That's kind of how I explain it. I like the movement aspect of wind in your face.
Well, then tell us about your move to Sun Valley. How old were you? And kind of how was that transition? Was it intimidating? Did you feel like you fit right in? Or what was it like to be a kid from Michigan who relocated to a small town in the middle of Idaho?
That's a thoughtful question.
Well done. This is called team, Bo.
It was difficult because I was going into 6th grade. I think I had maybe 7th grade. I had tried out for cheerleading at home and I had made the squad for the next year. I was in student council. I was getting good grades. I was kind of just finding my way in those early adolescent years where I was sort of like feeling kind of good about myself in a way. And then boom, we moved completely different. And we got there and we're like, these people are wearing flip-flops and OP shorts. I've never seen those shorts before. Everyone's wearing them. Where do we get those shorts? Barneys too. I remember riding the bus around town. We always rode the START bus everywhere because it was free. No, it's called the CART bus, Ketchum Area Rapid Transit.
Throwing a little Jackson in there.
START and CART. But everyone had Barneys on. We would count them some days. Like, I saw 3 red ones and 2 white ones. What'd you see? So it was really hard to move there. It was very, very much Western compared to what we had grown up used to.
You talk about the fact that you were a different person than you are today. And I know the story, so I'm going to invite it. But then you were called
AJ Cargill.
Tell me about Amy.
Good student, honor student, quiet, never speak up and put attention on yourself. My brother and sister were a lot more outgoing than me. And so I would just usually fade into the background and do my own thing. And I think I made a lot of self-discoveries that way. I knew kind of what things I liked and didn't like, what made me happy. I would read a lot. I spent quite a bit of time on our trampoline, which my dad got for all of us to play on, but it would be like where I would spend maybe 4 hours in the afternoon on, or doing my homework on the trampoline and just being with myself and with self-discovery. Like I said, I like being in motion, and that was a different way to explore physically as a kid. I loved it. And probably that had a big effect and a big way of channeling me into where I have taken a path, because I grew to not only love spending time on the trampoline, but become competent at it without a lot of instruction. It was really self-guidance to take these steps and develop new tricks with your friends and all this stuff. So where are we going with that? I got a little distracted by the...
Yeah. Coming back to trampoline, that's actually how I met AJ in Jackson. I work as a trampoline coach at the little local gymnastics facility and was giving a private lesson to our friend Joe, who brought AJ along on our first night. And I'm pretty tentative. I don't want to see anyone get hurt. It's kind of side hustle where, like the insurance is questionable, so I can only really bring people I trust. And AJ's being super respectful and kind of going through all my little steps. And she just keeps being like, I'm like pretty good at trampoline. And she's like, can I throw a front flip? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And she just launches this huge front flip and sticks it, and then proceeds to throw this massive back. Like, who are you? I'm just like cheesing ear to ear, grinning, just being, how did you get so good? And she kind of like goes into the story of just trampolining. But I think it's so fun to watch you bounce, because you can just tell you love it and being in the air, and that you've kept that. Because I think one thing I really admire about you is I'm 27, born in the 90s, and I'm moving out of a mogul career. And some of my mogul friends are like, I'll never do a backflip again once I'm done mogul skiing. That's terrifying. I hope that's something I can like always do, because it's one of the things I'm like most proud of. And to see you get on a trampoline and just throw a backflip like that was so just inspiring. And it's fun to watch you bounce and have fun.
That reminds me of something that was influential on me. I remember being probably 6 or 5, really young, at my grandpa's cottage up in northern Michigan. And we didn't have speed boats generally. He had a fishing boat and we had a rowboat. And I remember maybe a neighbor, a family friend of ours, came over and brought his speedboat. And I remember just being little and on the beach. And there was my mom out there in the water. And she was getting pulled up on a water ski and got up and just slalomed around. And I think that was a big eye-opening experience for me to be like, what? Whoa, your mom can do that? And ladies can do that? And maybe it's not quite as exact parallel, but
like seeing someone else kind of, just do something badass and rad
just like inspires you. And I think Lynsey, always says it like, you got to see it to believe it. You got to see someone like yourself reflected back to you. And I think those are kind of the moments that just make you transition from being that person is kind of like this superhero, I can't be on their level, to what, my mom can do it, I want to do it too. And then, oh, I have brown skin and I see a brown person doing that. Oh, I can do it too. Not just a blonde standing at the bottom of a mountain, but doing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that the first time that you were exposed, like you said, that, oh, ladies do that? Do you have any other examples like that?
I remember watching the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
Those were very informative for me and eye-opening, mind-blowing. And I saw Dorothy Hamill. I don't know how old I was, but I wanted to be an ice skater. That was my dream. I would beg my parents to take me to ice capades, and we would go, and I would dream about it the rest of the year. And
No way.
they'd be like, "What? No, you're going to go skiing with your brother and sister and us." But I wanted to be an ice figure skater. And the skiing area was sort of like our babysitter. Our parents just would be like, "You kids," I mean, I was 10 years old, older sister, younger brother. "We'll pick you up at 3. Here's your lunch money," or "We made lunches for you."
And so was that a good memory, or was it?
Really good memory. Yeah, we would ski around in jeans and they'd get all wet, and sometimes our boot buckles were frozen and we couldn't get them undone when we came inside to warm up.
But it's a great outlet for kids, huh? Just to get the giggles out.
Yeah, and be independent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you ever feel like, I knew I did, like we felt like we were the kings of this mountain
Yeah,
when you were growing up on ski team or around?
yeah. Okay, the 200 feet.
Yeah, I'm sure nobody just did the trick that I just did.
Where'd you grow up, Sophia, skiing?
I was born in Telluride, kind of same thing. Just, I have no memories before skiing. It was always a part. But then, when I was 10, moved to Sun Valley. I remember just ripping around on weekends, and the rest of the ski team would go in for lunch. And I somehow worked out this awesome deal with Apple's Bar and Grill that they would just have a basket of French fries for me ready to go. And I would walk in and pay, and I would eat them on the lift because I was, why are you going to take a lunch break? I don't want to do that. So I think I stayed the entire winter just eating French fries on Greyhawk, because that way I could keep lapping and checking in to see if the rest of my my team was out Irving's hot dogs. Well, we're going to do a whole Sophia interview. Yeah. So this one's about you. You can dig into that valley. Oh, there's so many. I mean, we could go on. But let's stick to the bullet points. So you moved to Sun Valley from Michigan. That's obviously your first big bullet point. What's the next pivotal moment in relation to ski?
So I skied around with some friends that I met at school. I mean, I met these kids at school, but I still wasn't friends with them probably until Christmas break, where Jill Parker, you know her, she asked me to go skiing with her, and it was with 2 of the other cool kids, and they were football players. But Jill's dad worked on ski patrol, and the 4 of us, it was 2 boys and 2 girls, just ripped around the whole mountain all day. And I realized, okay, we have a ski posse. We had so much fun. We did that a bunch of times during the winter. And I think it was 2 or 3 years when I was in high school then, I got the nerve up and I decided, no, I think I'm going to join the Sun Valley ski team. And so applied for scholarship there and got it, both my brother and I. And we were able to ski with the kids on the ski team and get coached. And that was a big, big deal.
How old were you at that point?
I think I was 14.
Right. So many of those kids start at 6, myself included. And so you're coming in as these weirdos that these kids have grown up with each other. What was that like for Michigan?
So intimidating because they're great skiers already. I can name their names because they became like heroes to me, but they were already on the development U.S. ski team.
So that would be who?
Ruthie Mathis, Peekaboo Street, like Jim Grossman. There was a whole bunch of guys. Even just our coaches. I can name almost all their names. Jeff Fagerholm, Jeff Enos. Yeah, pivotal people in my life.
Right. So that just goes to show your early mentors.
Yeah. Bob Furman.
Look at you, remember their names.
Yeah.
The very first mentors. You probably remember their names over your teachers.
Yeah, for sure. And I was not a star of the ski team at all. I joined at age 14. I was the worst kid on the team. Me and this other girl, we would always go last. We'd be in the back. We knew we were slower. We, didn't have the skills. And I literally would not be here today if one of those coaches that I named earlier, I'll remember this forever as the biggest gift. One day, we're done skiing. We've been skiing, probably it was a Saturday all day. And ski team, I think, ended at like 3:55. But the lift ran till 4 o'clock. And he turned to me and he said, "You and me, one more run." And he talked to me the whole time going up the chair about what I need to work on and let's get some of these skills honed. And what I want you to do is I want you to be right on my tails. I want your tips touching my tails all the way down Warm Springs. We are nonstop, and we're going to make as many turns as we can. And just the fact that one person, gave me that one last chair ride of being special, that somebody cared how I was performing. You know, I felt like I was on the ski team, but they weren't watching me. They weren't coaching me. They were there for everybody else.
They're invested in you.
Yeah, but
individually.
That one moment, pivotal. That's so influential. And
that's awesome. I think we all probably have that pivotal moments from our coaches. I know. I mean, I don't want to derail it too much. This is a great question. I think mine would be Pat Severia. You know, when I kind of watched everybody get frustrated with me and give up, he gave me one more chance a lot of times to try to get this arcing thing down. I was like, I am arcing. He's like, yeah, come with me. I already know how to do that. I am. And I think there's so many kids that would recognize that name, at least from Sun Valley.
Yeah.
And I think that probably goes any
generation.
Yeah. So who is it for you, Sophie?
Oh man, I feel like, I have a lot. I think Sun Valley for sure. Or just like the older girls on the team.
Yeah.
I somehow was really into skiing and invested in it. So oftentimes I was a little like 10, 11-year-old, but getting to ski with the older kids. And they took care of me. They made sure I had a seat on the van or give me rides home from tramp practice. And I think that you guys come from a time where you might not have had any female coaches or the team was really small. And I think having those older girls who let me sit in their lap at the bottom of like competitions definitely like gave. Yeah.
So how much older were they?
A lot of them were in high school.
And you were what, 6, you said?
Not 6, like 10, 11.
So, cousin, take us back to the trajectory of the next pivotal thing
Okay, after the Sun Valley ski team, graduated from high school. My folks were in the process of splitting up, and I was moved back to Michigan with my mom and younger brother. But we can choose to look at all the bright sides of that, and one of those was definitely that I ski raced on the high school ski team back in Michigan after getting a couple years of experience in bigger mountains with some really, really great coaches and skiers. And so I did pretty well in high school racing.
So you found that belonging.
Slowly, developed my confidence that, okay, this is something I love to do, but I can do it pretty well. And I was this very bookish, very shy, very, I wouldn't say unsocial, but just timid individual.
And then are you saying that skiing was your confidence? Is that what you're implying?
Yeah, I think that skiing and kind of couple that with the trampoline time and maybe couple it with getting good grades and having some other outside feedback that influenced me building my character around some things that I valued. Yeah, just helped me start to build confidence. And then when I went off to college.
I'm just curious though, in high school, what role were you? Were you friends with everyone? Were you in the nerd group? Were you in the athlete group? Were you in the cool kids? And what were the cool kids in your...
I think I was on the fringe of the cool kids. I wasn't really the cool kid, but I played volleyball. I started that in high school. So I was a little bit on the team sports, but not a lot. That also taught me a lot about athleticism and teamwork and losing and all that kind of stuff that I think sports in general are good for. But it was the first team thing I'd done. So I was nerdy, but I never thought of it, I guess, as I never put that label on myself. I was like smart. I was the smart kid and I liked science and I loved reading and writing was actually pretty fun. And I didn't like math, but everything else, like learning about history, learning about government, all that, languages, I loved it. I loved going to school. So I probably was a nerd if I don't going to school.
Yep. And we have found your category.
That's why I look up to you so much.
Yeah. Like I said, we welcome the nerds.
Yeah, 2 nerds and one fuzzy
creature. We get along great. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So
but then I went to college.
Then you went to college.
Like became something else.
Yeah. This is where the turn in the story.
Yep. I was developing a more confident personality, like we said, in high school, and I had a lot of friends and things. I go to college and I decide that, wow, I'm in this dorm and all I'm doing for the first week of school is singling out, searching for those people I knew from high school who were also at this college. And we would like sit and have lunch together or like there's a lot of time at night, dinner. So I decided that it seems silly to go to a school with this many kids in it and not put yourself out there a little bit and meet some more people than the people you weren't even like that close with in high school. But now we're like getting closer because we're the only people that we already know. So I branched out and I'm like, I don't even know what a sorority or fraternity is, but I signed up to go to this thing and I signed up with my kind of alias name because couple of my girlfriends in high school would call me AJ for a joke. And I'd be like, don't call me AJ. They're like, there's so many Amy's. You're not Amy. She's Amy and she's Amy and she's Amy. You should just be AJ. And I'm like, stop it. And so I signed up.
Isn't it interesting how friends kind of reflect to you before you even know it?
Yeah.
You reflected, not to cut you off, but you reflected to me my entire young adult relationship with skiing. You were always trying to get me to do the thing that I love the most, which was ski powder. And I was like, no, I have to do this regimented thing. They said I had to ride in the gates. And you were always encouraging that before I even saw it. Eventually, I grew into it. But I just find that ironic.
So then I sign up to go to the sorority fraternity thing and learn about it. And then, the next step is tomorrow night, we're going to go meet these people. And then the next night you can do that. And then the next night, and it was like, oh, well, why don't I go get some free dinner or whatever it was? And I'm like, okay, I'm meeting some new people. This is a little weird. And I'm sure I won't join one, but this is I'll keep at it for a week or whatever it was. And what do you know? I end up getting asked to join a sorority and going into one. And
which one?
It was called Alpha Chi Omega.
Oh,
AKIOs.
Oh my gosh.
I was also it was fall time and there wasn't a ski team there, but there was a ski club. So I signed up for the ski club. So kind of at the same time, I met some people who were skiers, and then I met some people in the Greek system.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I can't believe you were in a sorority.
I know.
But it's awesome.
I totally was in a sorority.
If they were cooler where I went, I would have been. But I was like, they weren't cool.
Well, I'll be completely honest. It was, when I look back, it was like Animal House.
It really was.
Yeah. And I think what was pivotal for me in a way was
it let you break down your walls.
Judgment around what's okay, what's good, and what's bad. Now you're in college and everyone else has a different system for judging what they're okay with.
And you're getting that reflected so many times because there's 40 girls in a house or something?
Maybe 100.
Gosh, that's insane. What is that like?
Maybe not all in the same house, but who are on that sorority.
But don't you all live in a house also?
Not everyone.
Do you want to live in the house? Is that cool or not?
You had to. You had to live in the house. Well, everyone wanted to until they were a senior. And then they wanted to get their own apartment or something. Yeah. Because the house supplied you with food. You didn't have to cook. And
wow.
The TV was there. You weren't paying your own bills. You just paid one bill for the...
So it's a great stepping stone from living with your parents is what it sounds like.
Yeah. And P.S., let's go back to my parents were very non-traditional, and my dad went through college but graduated early because of his sports accolade, but they didn't know how to guide me into college. And so I was the only child in my family who went to college at a university and got a degree. And I felt like an alien. And my folks were going through a divorce, and it was the 80s where the whole world was in a huge recession and people had lost their shirts on a lot of stuff. And I literally worked 3 or 4 jobs a semester. It was all scholarship and financial aid. I remember not being able to get books for 3 weeks into going to class because my financial aid didn't come in. And you kind of need the books. I'm getting a little emotional talking about it because it was almost demoralizing. I am here going to college knowing I'm going to have to pay every cent back, and I can't even get the books that I need to start off learning at the same pace as everyone else. I think that was pivotal in that maybe I needed a nest to fall in of the sorority. And on top of all of this, I was experiencing independence really for the first time and hardship really for the first time. I was a freshman when my parents told me, yeah, we're getting divorced. This is done deal. It's over now. And my sister, my best closest friend, she's a year older than me, was living in California at the time. Kind of my whole security
foundation.
Yeah, there it was from all of a university,
Yeah, it's you've been building it for yourself the entire time. No one paved this way for you. You've been creating it.
Guess what happened my first year on the ski team at college?
What?
Blew my knee out. I tore 3 out of my 4 major ligaments on my left knee, and ACL, MCL, and lateral collateral. Spent the rest of the year on the short bus and crutches.
How was that? Or did you just party? Because that's what you do in college.
I probably started partying my freshman year, but yeah. I wasn't praying a ton. You just want someone to see you.
Yeah, you want to be seen.
You want to be witnessed. You want to be seen, heard, maybe loved a little. But I'm just becoming very aware and very grateful that I have had a full life of adventure, like beyond my wildest dreams. I was scared to death to buy a candy bar when I was a kid, and I competed at the highest level in the world on Alaskan peaks in a new realm of skiing that was testing your risk tolerance. Yeah, and just
Were you following in anyone's footsteps? Or were you really making this up as you go? And so how did you know which way to go? Cute boys?
Yeah, that had some influence, I'm sure. Always does. I think there's a little fighter inside me that just keeps putting one foot in front of the other. But I don't know. I mean, I should give that almost a name, an alter ego that kind of pushes me forward. I'm so grateful that I am a person who has a passion. I mean, every winter comes around and I have a boyfriend again. I have love. I have something I'm excited about, regardless of where you are with other human. But
because you're in love with the mountain. Let me just spell it for you, just in case you don't get it.
skiing,
This relationship that you get to put away for a little bit, but it's always there.
such joy.
It gives you purpose and it gives you community.
Yeah. And a
reason to
sense
get
of
up in the morning.
confidence and a place where you fit, where other people understand you. They love it as much as you do from almost everyone you see out there. So, yeah, a sense of belonging, I think. But knowing how to turn in what direction, that was just a Russian roulette for me. And when you get a little bit older and you look back, I think that without those steps, those bad things that happened along the way, the knee injury that got me into PT clinic for physical therapy, which is what I wanted to study anyway. And I thought I wanted to be a doctor, but then I just did PT as a freshman in college. And I was like, this is the coolest thing. And so I started studying genetics and microbiology and all of it to go down that path to be a physical therapist. And then when I finished my 4 years of partying and drinking and coming out of my shell as AJ, not Amy, at college, I moved out west because my family had lived there for a while and I used to those mountains. And I thought I would just get one more winter of skiing in before I went back to grad school to be a PT. And I moved to Breckenridge, Colorado, because there were already a few people from our ski team who were older than me living there. And so we had an easy segue into that town, got jobs, places to live pretty easily, my girlfriend and I. And we spent a few years in Breckenridge, and from the first day we were there, we would go to this one kind of like Mexican dive bar to get free chips and salsa because we were broke. That would be our dinner. Maybe someone buy you a margarita. You buy your first one. Maybe you didn't feel like drinking a margarita. Maybe you just were there for the chips and salsa and the water and maybe the spectating the cute boys. But the first day we were there, these two guys came up to us and their names were Steve and Steve, I think. And they're like, you're the chicks that ski like dudes.
I love it. What a compliment.
Oh, I guess the skiing in Breckenridge was like you were skiing under a chair, you were skiing moguls all the time, or you were skiing like corduroy over on Peak 10 or easy terrain. So anything you wanted to ski that was not blue runs was super bumped up with like legit zipper lines. And so those guys that we became friends with, and eventually more than friends, both of us, not Steve and Steve, but their friends, Chip and Greg. Seriously, my friend Lynn dated Chip, and I had the first true love of my life, Greg Frosley. An amazing, amazing, amazing human, for real.
And I've never heard this story.
He actually kind of coached me in mogul skiing. Whoa. I mean, this was after my experience in college of kind of falling in love with this guy who was older than me. He was on the ski team. And that first year, we had started dating, like at Christmas, and I blew my knee out pretty much at Valentine's Day. And
The second time.
no, the very first time. I was a freshman in college.
Oh.
And I had surgery on my knee, and it was over Valentine's. And I got out of the hospital, a week or 2 weeks later. It was like a big ordeal then, and found out that he cheated on me with another girl on the ski team. But then he actually had a girlfriend who was in my sorority. Oh man, like I got burned real hard
Early.
in college. Yeah, early. But then Greg was a legit human being and an awesome individual. And he's like, let's all do these mogul enduros. Have you heard of enduros? Yeah. And so you just had to it was a 2 or 3 hour event, and you would go and do as many runs on like peak
Sure. I remember when that was a thing, like 24 hours of veil.
and get judged on each run, and whatever your score was per run, like they added it up. I don't even remember like actually doing that, but maybe we were training for that. And then they're like, there's a pro mogul event over at Loveland. Let's all go to that. And so we went to that, and it was like, these guys are on TV, the people who were doing the mogul comps. And it was at Loveland, and it was really, really, really steep. And it was also kind of right under the left. I forget what run. But I went away with fourth place that day.
Wow.
And there were like 12 or 15 girls. And I'm like, I've done this before. And, you know, there were probably like 50 guys. So someone walking away with fourth place among our group was huge. And that was me. So I think I got another bump in confidence that, oh, I can do this. And so I guess set my sights on pursuing it and became strong again.
What did you enjoy about like mogul skiing coming from Alpine? Was it weird to like switch communities, or how did that go for you?
It felt like a natural progression at the time. We did have a local race league, and it was like the restaurants all challenged each other, and I raced on a team for that, and that was awesome. But to me, I was never a good racer. I was okay, and I got lucky because I moved back to the Midwest and did better in some ski races.
I just want to bring up the fact that how different people bring different things into your life, and different people play important roles in introducing you to certain things. It's really fascinating how this love pointed you in a certain way. Because I'm listening, and it really seems like you really truly have followed your heart. That has been your map. In a world where people don't, you follow what you're told. And I know that Amy would have followed what she was told. So when do you feel like you really took that step toward, I'm not going to follow the way everyone does it? You came from the Midwest where everyone gets married at like 22. When was it that you made that decision to follow that beacon versus, I don't know?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is that maybe not do what you're told, but like kind of follow the rules.
Yeah,
and
the expectation.
Exactly what I was. Yeah. And then I think learning to try alcohol and drugs in college, you learn to bend the rules a little bit, or get away with them, or break them, or expand your capacity for pushing that boundary. And by the time I was out of college, I mean, I started college at age 17 and graduated at age 21.
Wow. So
yeah, I was young.
Yep.
For my grade. And so I'm like now in Breckenridge, and to follow my heart, I think, without really acknowledging that that's what I was doing, but it just felt right.
Mm-hmm.
It felt
like the natural next step.
Yeah, I think when things bring you that much joy, there's peace and happiness and sense of identity that goes along with it. And I continued to build that. I got on a freestyle team and tried to take it more seriously, and tried to go the amateur mogul skiing route to try to make the U.S. ski team, to try to make the Olympics. And I got a ways up that ladder, but I had a lot of knee injuries. I had 5 different knee surgeries throughout probably.
This is at the same time this is happening to you. My dad's telling me, see, you can't follow her what she's doing. You'll blow out your knees. No, you can't go skiing with her.
I wanted you to do moguls.
Yeah. Do you remember, are you kind of bringing posters over? And we'd only see each other like once a year at that time.
Yeah, when I went back to Michigan. Yeah. I think there's a certain spark that you see in other people who, you know, I knew by this time I loved skiing and it was shaping my life. I was making some decisions around it. And to see you being a super successful NORAM racer when you were, 13?
Yeah, I don't know. They started sending me to Europe when I was pretty young, and I didn't even understand what was going on.
Yeah, I think a lot of people around you understood it more. And so...
Yeah, I basically crashed once I heard the track that they had me on. I couldn't handle it. I had to wear this t-shirt at this fundraiser that said my statistics that I had no idea about, like ranked 3rd in the nation for Super G, and it was a U.S. development fund. And that's the night I started crumbling after that, because I was, oh my god,
people's expectations.
Yeah, or like, this whole party is to raise funds to send us.
Yeah,
and I've got this commodity on my back, and I'm like, oh, I can't let them down, and then I let them all down.
Well, that's a lot of weight to carry. I think some kids they have to do that a lot throughout their very, very young childhood. And there's probably a cracking point for it and certain capacity for it. And when it's enough, it's enough. And I still see that all the time.
What are you talking? I don't understand the pressure that's put on kids.
Yeah, I might be like going in a weird tangent here, and I might be sounding judgy or something.
No, not at all.
When parents maybe aren't parenting as much as a child needs, that child sometimes is almost co-parenting themselves, parenting the parent. You hear it with like alcoholics and that kind of thing. That's not necessarily like the path I'm going down, but I do feel like I see that as some girls will take on that role. At least maybe some boys do too. And I just haven't experienced that myself. And that's a lot of pressure, I think, for a very young soul who might be an older soul, but it's a gentle place to be, and you're supposed to be being nurtured.
You're supposed to get to be the kid and feel safe and just get to go play. But no, then you got to start thinking about how you're going to take care of your family for the rest of their life.
Even yourself, at that time, maybe for you, and then others too.
Yeah,
It's a big deal.
Yeah,
I see the weight of it on you.
We had jobs since we were like 13, 3 of them all summer to try and pay for our skiing winter.
Yeah, but I'm thankful for that now.
Oh, I was too.
And it makes me really proud.
Because we grew up in a town where we watched kids that didn't have to work their ass off.
And everywhere.
Well, there was a time when I was like, where's my
lucky
birthday car in the parking lot? Like, wait, some kids are being given a freaking car for their birthday and they just rolled into the high school parking lot. But then also seeing my friends that were raised by nannies, they're in giant, lonely houses. So anyways,
we're thankful for that upbringing that was more of like, you want it, then you're going to have to go and get it. Figure out a way to make it happen. In the same vein as we want you out of the house today. You don't get to just sit here and watch TV. Not allowed at all whatsoever. Not even 20 minutes of it. There was no bargaining with your parent to buy you more TV time or get you sugary cereal. They said no, it meant no. And you know what? They said no a lot and it was okay. And I respect the shit out of that. Not like, whatever you want, kid. Whatever you decide, kid. What are we having for dinner tonight, kid? Stop me now.
Well, okay, let's go back to the story. Talk about your mentors. And maybe mentors isn't the right word, but who did you look up to? Who else put another pivotal role in your trajectory as it relates to skiing?
Well, I remember in skiing, so when we moved to Sun Valley, Kristen Cooper was, I think, maybe fresh off the Olympics, and she was coaching a little bit. Well, I mean, even growing up in Michigan as a very young child, we got ski magazines because we got to go on that trip up north once or twice a year. So Cindy Nelson and Kristen Cooper were my first, people in skiing who I knew who they were. And then there were the older girls on the ski team.
They were ski racers.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That's kind of all that there were. I guess there was ballet or something else.
Right. No, but that's who you would know. Those were the famous skiers. What about like Susie Chapstick and stuff?
I didn't know who she was.
Did you see her in posters?
Maybe, but to me, I don't know if that even caught my eye.
Mm-hmm. You would have thought she was probably a model. But
yeah,
or this real ski race.
Maybe it's a pretend picture. Mm-hmm. It's not real. I don't know. A Barbie is a pretend version of a human.
Yes, it is. Good job.
When I started competing in Moguls, I immediately knew who every single one of those girls on the U.S. ski team were. And I immediately got treated with a competitive air.
Like they saw you as a potential threat.
Yeah.
You were good.
Yeah,
that's
immediately.
Awesome.
My first race. Who are you? What's your name? Not in a friendly way. Not like, hi, I'm Lynsey. Nice to meet you. You know, what's your name?
And how is that?
Intimidatingly. Who are you? What's your history? And it was difficult. It was in Telluride. That was where one of my first races was.
Race? So these are...
Mogul race. I don't know. Yeah,
competition.
I don't know what we call them. Things change.
And so how'd it go?
I think I got fourth a lot that first year.
Nice.
And things went pretty well. I mean, we had 10 women on our team alone. And so for me to get the top, I probably usually was the top 3 on our team, but not usually the top, not the darling.
And so what did that mean? Were you getting paid? Were you winning contests?
Oh, no, we had to pay to be on the team. And then we'd just sign up under we go with that team. And it would be like, hey, Sophie, are you going to go do Winter Park next week? Okay, let's figure out how we're going to do this and who we're going to stay with. And if we get a room, if we have enough money, or how many people we're going to put in a room.
Why? What was the motivation?
To get results, I guess.
And results for what?
Yeah, I know. I was already an adult. I'm supposed to be adulting and getting a real job at this time. But it was like...
Well, no, was there another point beyond that? Would you get a chance to film it, or was that not a thing?
It was trying to get to qualify to get at a higher level of competition to make it to World Cup skiing. NORAMs, they had NORAMs, and then they had World Cup. But it was more importantly to try to get to that level of NORAMs to get on the U.S. team.
Okay, to make the U.S. team. And then it was very much points. So you were working hard. That was your goal. This is so cool. And yeah, at the same time, you bartending. What do you?
Yep, I was working in a retail store selling ski clothes, and I was bartending.
Is this in Crested Butte yet?
No, I never lived in Crested Butte. My first competition was in Crested Butte.
I just have it in my head that you were there for some time, at least with McConkey. Is that not true?
That was my first competition.
Okay, so I'm right to think that it was there, but you didn't live there.
Yeah.
Okay, can you go to that? Can you talk about that?
Yep. okay, I competed in mogul skiing. I never made the higher levels because I had 4 years in a row where I blew out a knee and had surgery. Yeah. And like one or two of the times, like the Steven Hawkins Clinic just paid for it, just said, we'll take care of you. You're up and coming. Well, it was actually them one time, and it was Dr. Gottlieb and the Vail.
They sponsored you for a surgery?
Pretty much. But I was a guinea pig too. I had to have acupuncture. And then they would monitor how much pain meds they gave me as far as like, I was not knocked out. I was laying in surgery and they're like, can you see your toes? There'd be a drape between.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, yep. And they'd be like, okay. Or they'd lower it or whatever. And they hung it there and they would wiggle your toes for me. And they're like operating on me. And I could wiggle my toes. And then I started feeling not so good about that and feeling queasy. And then they gave me more stuff to knock me out a little more.
Whoa.
I was like, I feel sick. I feel hot. I feel really hot. I feel cold. I feel sick. A little nauseous. But they used almost solely acupuncture for blocking pain.
No way.
So
and you
fascinating
for that.
And it was little tiny things in your ear, pins in your ear.
Whoa. So through all these surgeries, you didn't take those gnarly drugs into your body that many times. I mean, not as much.
And they would just wait for that thing to fall out of your ear. And I remember one day at home, I was like, I'm in a lot of pain now. And I called the doctor and they were like, is the thing still in your ear? And I'm like, no, it dropped down. It was just like sitting there. It wasn't stuck.
No way. So you were being medicated through a pin in your ear and no drugs.
Yeah, a lot.
Like pain medication through a pressure point.
Yeah.
No way. And this is back in the
late 90s, early 90s.
Why don't we do knee surgery like that now?
I don't know. People need to research it more and make it known because it was legitimately working. And I also had acupuncture for the swelling. And I remember sitting there watching the swelling go down as like all these needles are in my leg. I'm like, what? So then I got talked into going to this one competition in Crested Butte and I decided I wasn't good enough. We weren't going to make it. A bunch of us, like Shane McConkey, got kicked out of Mogul tour because he streaked. I was there, saw it, whatever. He did something silly the week before at Copper Mountain too. I don't remember what it was, but it might have been a flip or something like that. They were already pissed off at him. And so that's why he's like, fuck it, I'm going to streak anyway. They're not going to kick me out and I'm doing really good. And sure enough, they kicked him out and it was Shane and one of my buddies, Justin Patno from Arapahoe Basin, he was on Team Breck. And then one, I think, maybe Justin's friend, or Shane's friend, Chris Carson, who still is involved in moguls today. The four of us, and at one point it was Scotty Hall too, another good friend of mine, got in a car and we all drove out to California to do a bunch of Bud Pro mogul events. Duel, head-to-head, at like Heavenly, Squaw, Mammoth, and someone else. It was like classic, straight out of a movie for what you would see. I think Glenn Blake was there with his mohawk, like the early days, and all those guys from the Blizzard of Oz and stuff.
So you had seen that movie?
Oh, yeah. And one of the guys was from Michigan. And
so what? Because they were in that movie, they were heroes?
Yeah, they were kind of on that trajectory. They were starting to ski all over the world, but they were mogul skiers.
Mm-hmm.
We were in Club A. It was so freaking cool. And one of those guys was from Michigan, and he was good friends with some of my friends on the ski team from Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was in Breckenridge, and then he started coaching our mogul team.
So were these people influenced by Warren Miller as well, or was it mainly those Greg Stump movies? Did mogul skiers now want to be these, I mean, in that time, was it looked at like, oh, they're being actors, or was it, no, they're making movies about...
They were like stuntmen almost on skis, pushing the limits of what people had seen others do on skis. And I think that was the real eye-opener and like the door opening for what free skiing has eventually become.
Right. But describe it at that time. What was
so really loose? People would drink or party, and it was more of a freedom about having a good time living in ski towns and traveling through ski towns and meeting like-minded souls. And
did you feel like, I know that you rafted on the river as well. Was that same community in that arena around the river?
I guess you could link the two of those. That's a little bit tougher for me to grasp my head around.
Because like I remember you were a big boater. You would bring your kayaks and you'd be guiding at certain places on the river, and you got to go in the Grand Canyon, and I would just hear these stories as a little girl, like, whoa, my cousin really is a superhero. She's not only this badass skier, but then she guides on this river and she takes other people and is responsible for them.
That's mountain life.
Then I come over and she's just like picking out pictures out of magazines for the new dress she's gonna get. It's crazy dichotomy of a girly girl with a badass woman. Badass meaning she does amazing stuff and nobody taught her. She taught herself.
Every time when you were like, yeah, I'm going to teach you how to do a roll. Who taught you? Did your dad? Because my dad taught me everything.
Usually it was a cute guy.
Right. It's, I want to talk about that too. It's something that nobody really talks about, but so often you're introduced to some of these amazing things because a guy wants to show you what he loves.
Yeah. And you want to prove that you can do it. You want to be like, I want you to like me. Well, I don't try anything.
Well, first of all, it's your coaches, right? And that one time when they might trust you to bring you into the rad line and you feel like you're in some sort of club. And then equally the older women on ski team or whatnot, we go to sit in the back of the bus with them or whatever.
Yeah, they taught me how to knit in the back of the van.
I got taught to do horrible, horrible things by the older. I went to jail because of the older girls. Yeah, they're role modeling. Yeah.
Good one.
That's another story. Ask me about it another time.
Record as self-discovery moment.
Yeah.
But I was a nerd.
Yep. You're a nerd. I don't know. But
I turned into a partier.
Yeah, so talk about the McConkey and his influence on you a little bit, and then where the trajectory went from there, because you were right there.
Like, you're saying this right now, and I'm thinking like, oh my God, Shane McConkey, like, what was there not to love? He just cracked you up and made you feel fun and comfortable and easy to be around. And then it immediately made me think about Doug Coombs and how he just made people feel so comfortable and he was so fun. And like, I got to be there for both those moments. What? Like, yeah, they did both have an influence on my life in pivotal moments. So Shane was the one who's like, yeah, we're having such a good time. You guys should all go to Crested Butte and do this competition or do this race. And I thought it was more like a fun event where people party and get drunk and maybe you show off a multiple set of talents that you have, because I didn't really understand what he was talking about. Do you do moguls one day and then you jump one day and then you have to ski fast one day and race? He was like, it kind of combines racing and
you didn't understand
freestyle background. And so I, foolishly enough, spent all my money and signed up for the thing and got myself to Crested Butte.
What are you bartending?
Yeah, maybe I was bartending or waitressing.
Where?
The Breckenridge Brewery, which was awesome and fun, even though I still to this day don't drink that much. So the first competition I went to, I failed miserably. And I think that's another place where you and I bond a little bit. I allow myself failures. I set myself up for failures frequently without really knowing it. I, once in a while, will
fail early and fail fast, you mean?
Yeah, I'll take a big risk and have learned that it's okay. You might land on your face and you might have a knee surgery. You might have setbacks. It's okay. I'm a hard worker. I'm a strong person. I'm going to get through it. There is another side.
So you accept those consequences early. Would you say you've done that in other things other than athletically?
Yeah.
Do you do that in relationship?
Yeah.
Do you do that in other work?
I would rather be the person who took a risk and failed than someone who took the safe road and didn't experience what it could feel like to succeed in a big way, whether it's like learning a kayak roll, succeeding in a big way, or jumping something in skiing.
But what about outside of that? Where do you see parallels?
Well, where I see it is I will take a risk and I will do it sometimes at a self-sacrifice.
You're willing to fail when you sign up to jump into a love relationship.
Yeah.
It's not like you're trying to stack all of your cards.
Yeah. I'm certainly not perfect. I'm far from it. And I don't expect anyone to be perfect. I think that I would like myself to be a little more perfect or better person.
But that attitude has brought you all of these riches to your life that you taught yourself. Because if you didn't have that in you, you probably wouldn't have taken any risk because obviously the influences in your life weren't pointing you there. You found your own way.
Yeah. For my dad being pretty much a professional athlete who never got me into team sports or anything. I mean, he did buy us a trampoline and he did buy us motorcycles at one point. He let us go and do fun stuff and we went camping and skiing. But I was never encouraged to be an athletic individual. So I did discover this. Some of what's helped me and some of what's hurt.
Yeah, there's a blessing and a curse, right? That also means you've kissed a lot of frogs and jumped in wholeheartedly and been through some hard stuff. Can you talk about that a little bit, about what that attitude has done in relationship?
I think it's been about my truth of who I am, because I present as I am. Maybe a little more reserved than I actually am, because I don't say a whole lot in the beginning, but I'm not afraid to kind of wear my heart on my sleeve and show you my true colors. And I think that there's some good and some bad with that. And I think it's hard for people to take me sometimes because I'm pretty honest, blunt. I can just not sugarcoat something. And I think my voice isn't all feminine.
Yeah, so people have picked on you a little bit, or not giving you feedback, myself included, that your tone can be direct and brash a little bit.
And to you, and what I've learned over the years is that I don't need to take that personally. And that's something that you've taught me, is that I might come off that way, but it's not meaning in any other way than to be direct.
Yeah, and
So-
I think that's a big other women in this whole industry as well, is that I have been in this ski world for a long time. You know, I moved to Jackson at a really, really great time, and I got to experience so much of Jackson's growth, and it's had a lot of momentum, and it's been the sexy spot to go, and it's just been on fire in the last, I would say, 10 dozen years. And I've come to realize that there's a lot of talented young girls or other women who have moved to Jackson throughout the years, and I've stuck myself out there and said hello, and maybe not always been received in the most friendly way. So I sort of stopped and I pulled myself back from doing that. And like, that girl's not very nice. She's never even looked at me once or said hi to me.
Wow.
But then I had to back myself up and realize that like I'm the older person here. I'm probably the one who's supposed to be setting the tone for this relationship. And I probably didn't realize that until I was in my late 30s, that it's okay for me to set that tone and be friendly.
And be the leader in that situation. Be the first one to make an open, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably when I started teaching other women's camps.
Oh, so let's talk about that. Is that your natural next kind of progression?
Well, I mean, we kind of skip forward quite a bit because I did compete in free skiing for quite a long time, and I had a lot of successes in that and early on, and mentors of sort.
Well, then let's go there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep you on trajectory so you know what the next kind of key point is.
Yeah, I think the first season I competed in, first season, it was that race at Crested Butte. I stayed and watched till the end, and I saw a couple of girls who were really amazing skiers, and then the rest of the girls who I was like, well, I could probably at least get 5th place, you know? I could get in the top 10. I think.
And you remember who the girls were at that time?
I think they all came from Crested Butte. I want to say Jill Sickles-Matlock and Allison Gannett and
Anyways, all right. So
maybe
what's next then?
Kristen Ulmer.
So you stayed till the end?
Yep. And I watched. So I'm like, oh no, this is it. This is how it's going to work for me. It combines kind of a little bit of the ski racing that I did, but it's not ski racers who are doing this. And it felt like a natural progression from mogul skiing because you're dealing with obstacles coming at you. And in that tougher terrain, it's not groomed, it's bumped up. And that's where they held the competitions on. And you have to jump off things and land them. And I had a little bit of experience in that. And it was like self-coached. You're not paying someone. I didn't have any money, but you could maybe win some money at these, like $500 you could win for first place. And maybe you could break even.
On your trip.
Yeah.
So how did you get into that then?
Okay. I started just paying my way and taking myself to a few competitions. And I decided that, well, I'm going to do this. And I'm going to move to Jackson Hole next winter. Actually, what I did is I came back from Crested Butte. I talked to my bosses at the brewery and I said, do you think I could have a leave of absence for 1 month and still have my job for the summer? So I crafted out this plan and they gave it to me and I could stay for free at someone's house in Jackson. And I came to Jackson to move here, but just to like try to get a job for next year and maybe make some friends and see if I could really live in this town. And so I moved to Jackson and immediately set up a plan.
Why Jackson?
Well, for one, it was closer to Sun Valley where my family still was, half of my family was residing for like holiday
Half your
trips.
family being us.
Yep, and my dad and
Okay.
my brother maybe was back and forth between there. And I think Marcy was still in California, so she would sometimes come to Sun Valley for holidays. So it was closer to Sun Valley, and it was like the raddest mecca place for, I thought, like steep skiing. I thought of it as steep skiing.
Because of what?
I wasn't sure yet. I don't know if I could put my finger on it. I don't think I know who knew who. Well, no, that's all.
Were the movies there at all?
Probably.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It was probably Doug.
Like Scott Schmidt and Doug Coombs were the ones who were doing the steep skiing still, like the Glenn Plakes and the guys from
The Blizzard of Oz.
Yeah, but the movies are
Greg
called
Stump?
something. Yeah, the Stump movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're doing it too, but they kind of stayed a little bit more in moguls with like Sudnick and Scott Kennett and stuff. And then so I learned that, well, I moved to Jackson. I take this month off. I meet a few friends. I get a job lined up for the fall, but I also went on a ski trip afterwards with a boyfriend. Granted, we took my car we were going to go ski the areas in Salt Lake. So we skied Alta and Snowbird, and then we were going to Mammoth and Tahoe because we had friends we could stay with. And so I look up this girl who's a friend of a friend in Salt Lake. We stay with her. Her name's Linda Peterson. She had been to South America competing, and she had a poster on her wall, and I'm like, tell me about that. And I'm like, oh, wow, yeah, I need to do that. I kind of speak Spanish. Sounds like a great event. And then we went to California, and we skied deep powder, and we looked up other people we knew from skiing moguls and camped out on people's couches. And I got back to Jackson, and had this plan. Okay, I'm going to go back to Breckenridge and work for 3 months, save as much money as I can, go compete in Argentina in September, and then get back home and drive all my stuff up to Jackson. And instead of me, and spent the whole summer there befriending Allison Gannett and Dave Swanwick. And then I got there and he wasn't my boyfriend anymore. But that's okay. I had to be independent again. And I wasn't as cool as they were. And I got 3rd place in that. And that's where I met Doug and Emily Coombs. And Emily especially was very direct and straightforward and came right up to me and said, who are you? What's your name? And where are you from? And at that point I said, Jackson, Wyoming, because I was going to move there right after this trip. And she's like, I've never seen you. I've never met you before. How long have you been there? I'm like, I'm actually moving there. I spent a month there last winter. And she's like, well, if you keep skiing like that, you're going to be in the top 3 in the world this year. It was so cool. I can still hear those words, and I lived on those words. Those words were my food for 2 or 3 years, and I would hear them in my mind as I'm skiing some days, whereas I was trying to work my way up. And at the end of that year, I stood on the podium in 3rd place at my first Alaska competition.
First year.
Yep.
In Alaska.
Yep.
So you did the first worlds? Is that what were they called?
Because Emily had already been a world champion.
Oh, okay. So
it was like 1995 or 96.
how many years had it been going?
I want to say the first one was in 91.
Okay. Probably in its heyday, really. When
Pretty young. I mean, they would take...
the sport, as far as like, that is what made you. Like, that was the best skiers in the world.
Yeah, they only invited, I think, 20 people total, maybe 25. I have the start list. It's pretty cool.
And some of them were film skiers at that time or not?
Yeah, were they? Dean Cummings, Dave Swanwick. There was Steve Winter's production, and TJR was probably just starting, and that's when they like filmed Doug Coombs, and it was probably like not even started in 95, but I don't know.
So at what point were you coming and being the Jackson Hole girl and showing up on posters for Jackson Hole and then bringing them, my memories are just these little snippets along your path.
Yeah.
And obviously a really prominent one for me was you coming home for Christmas with these posters from Jackson Hole, like oversized, nice paper. This beautiful girl, like jumping off a cliff. None of these were powder turns. These were cliff jumping shots on a poster. And they were my cousin. It was just like my eyes bugged out of my head. Like, what? I want to do...
Possible?
Yeah. I want to be that girl. And I'd never seen a girl on a poster doing stuff. Most young kids are exposed to catalogs and magazines where you only see women selling products and looking pretty. You don't see them doing stuff other than maybe some light jogging and
but definitely have posters of men and boys racing and doing
see that
stuff. Yeah.
Actually, at that point, I didn't have any posters of ski racers because I really wasn't passionate. I knew who they were, but I didn't have it in my mind to be this amazing ski racer. It was just my means to continue skiing. And so I just remember seeing that and being like, that's just, I still see it. I can still see the poster in my mind. I remember you coming down the stairs for the first time and like I saw it. I remember everything. It's a vivid picture. The green carpet of your house. Yeah. Basement next to the pool table. Yeah. It was really, really cool. So at what point were you shooting for and on behalf of the mountain, and then how did that go?
I think I kind of just had to forge my way with that in Breckenridge. While I was doing moguls a little bit, I skied. There were these paying gigs. I got my friend from Australia who I was competing moguls with, Katrina Woods, and we drove over to Aspen to try out for a movie, and we got to be in it, and it was called Aspen Extreme.
You're in the movie?
You don't really see us because you're in the background. Yeah, but we got to do the Powder 8 scene where they helicoptered us to the top of Snow Bowl at Aspen Highlands. No, what's the other resort there? It starts with a Snowmass. Yeah, these have a bowl at the top. And they closed the bowl off, and they had like sushi lunch for us.
Yeah, like you're really getting...
We had matching one-piece suits to be in the...
We had a day rate?
Yeah, we did.
How much?
Like $120 a day. It was huge.
You got...
Yeah.
That is
I had to sign a contract.
No way. Didn't know that either.
Yeah. And then I heard about a photographer, this guy, Todd Powell, and he would take me out shooting some photos. And I remember they made us wear the in-the-boot stretch pant kind of one-piece suits for these photo shoots, and they'd be in powder, and I'd be like, so bad. The powder would like build up into an ice chunk right on your
on top of your boot. Right.
It was awful. Like, why do people wear these?
So were they like making you ski model?
Yeah,
essentially?
pretty much. Smile, no, like it'd be sunglasses
Mm-hmm.
or those like, pit viper style ones now, like the Oakley shade.
They would dress you is what you're saying?
Yeah.
And then they would shoot, and then they would use that for what?
A billboard. I was on a billboard to come ski Breckenridge, or advertisements in the local magazines. Still do it. They still do it.
And but now you don't get paid for that, I feel like.
Well, now it's expected that like your sponsors pay for their stuff to be in the photos, and maybe they pay the photographer less. I don't know how it works exactly, but everyone wants the opportunity to ski with a photographer because the photographer will do the work to get it published, and now you're published and you get portfolio of sorts. And when I moved to Jackson, I had a few published photos, and I told this guy that, he's like, have you done any ski modeling? I'm like, yeah, I have. And it was the second day I was in Jackson. He's like, go knock on their door over there. They do photos and you should go out with them. And then,
so it was called ski modeling then. You were like proud to be a ski model. This is hilarious.
And the third day I was in Jackson, I had the best like moments of my life where I got to go up on the tram way earlier than other people. The guy called me, or like I knocked on his door, and he's like, okay, can you ski with us tomorrow? And do you have a nice new coat you can wear without any rips or stains or anything? And what color is it? And what size are you? And we'll be going really early. Are you sure you'll be there? So we went on this private tram, me and another girl and these two photographers. And it was waist deep powder and rendezvous ball. Like fucking bluebird skies,
Is it
crystalline.
Do you think, AJ, it was waist deep because of the skis at the time, or did it snow more? Because I remember this too.
I think it kind of had those bigger moments of snow. And I have the photos.
I remember. Like, and they're not faking it.
I'm like down deeper.
She's not trying to get low. They're literally like plowing through waist deep snow. You just don't see those kind of images anymore. Now we work it and we know how to make the snow spray, but we're trying.
I agree. And then later in that day, I'm like getting in the lift with these photographers, and here he skis off. He's like, I guess you called those guys. I'm like, hi, sorry, we're cutting the lift in front of you. Have a good day.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. You have so many awesome stories. How about most embarrassing?
We're not ready for that.
The one jumping into Corvette?
Yeah.
We don't have to go there yet, but where are we on the trajectory?
Well, we're like partway through my ski career. At the pinnacle of my career, I pretty much word it so that I tell people that I won the tour. And most people who compete in free skiing now know what that means. And people are like, you were the world champion? I was like, yes, I was the world tour champion. And I try to keep that pretty true, because to be the world tour champion that year, I did not win the world finals, but my points were good enough to be the champion of the entire tour.
Right.
And so there's a little bit of weird feeling involved in that.
Right. It's a points thing that, you might not have won the last race.
The biggest race, or not won the Olympics of it.
Right.
So I'm a little bit sensitive about that. Like, I legit won.
Okay. But you would say that that was your pinnacle. Like, what were you hoping for? What was beyond that?
Well, at that time, it was first place in the world. However, I didn't travel to Europe to compete in free skiing yet. Like, that wasn't
because you could
at that point. It was
right.
South America, Canada, U.S. So you had nationals. You had South American nationals, Canadian nationals, U.S. nationals, and you had other feeder style events. And then the world championship was here in Alaska. And they had others. I don't know how the girls from Europe got over to ski with us, but they would be like only 3 of them, and they'd be from all over. And sometimes they really kicked ass, and sometimes they were like terrible. Like, they weren't even going to touch any of the girls from the U.S. So yeah, that was my pinnacle. I
did
played like third and second and then first in the world. So it was very much a long road to work my way to get there, and very much worth it. I mean, I met people from all over competing at the best resorts all over the country and world. I mean, it took me to places I never would have gone, and I spent all my money. I got credit cards to put on it, and I would pay it off. I mean, I think the most I ever got paid by anyone for skiing in my life, probably still $500, a check for that too, because I got a photo published or something. Never got like a stipend or paid by any sponsor I ever had. It was like, you can get a free outfit or free skis and boots and bindings, and it's awesome. I love that stuff, and it's great. Now I really truly only ski on stuff I really love. So it's kept it a very like a truthful relationship, and never was my source of income.
Was there a time when you hoped?
Oh yes. Yeah, that was my dream.
Yeah, so talk about that.
Well, I knew other people were making a living and not working jobs. They were getting to go on more trips, like with Warren Miller and TGR and Matchstick, and that was the dream. that would have been the pinnacle. Honestly, I think I didn't have the sponsorship level that would grant me to be in those movies. I remember one time sitting at the Village Cafe and finding out that cost someone who was a new person, new girl in our town. Her sponsors had paid $60,000 for her to be in a TGR movie. And I had seen the TGR movie and I was like, what did she do in the movie? That's not representative of what women are doing in skiing. Like,
I remember that
have been landing
one powder turn and everyone was like, what?
Yeah. And her name was on the poster. And it was just, to me, not representative of what women were doing in skiing at the time. And such a shame. And to learn the slap in the face that it takes somebody ponying up $60,000 so you can be in a movie for like 5 seconds. And how does that value there? So I just realized like, okay, well, that's not really going to be my path, I guess. Won't ever be in a movie because I won't have those kind of relationships with sponsors. And honestly, I think it came down to like the time I was only the supermodel pretty girls get those kinds of deals. And I think could probably ask a lot of other people and get a similar answer. I mean, it sounds to be mean and judgmental of me, but it wasn't mean towards those girls who got it. I think that their looks helped them along the way, and no like ugly duckling, but I was no media darling either. Not at all. There were other people who took that slot. There was a very small slot for that. No, we have 30 seconds in a movie. That's how much time we have for it. Or if we didn't have articles and magazine images, and it was very small. And it was really cool when it did happen, though. It was really, really, really cool when it did happen. A free skier article on me was like blowing. And that's probably what you saw when it was me pushing to get a poster made. I was a Jackson Hole sponsored skier after I had some results. And I probably paid the photographer for my headshot,
That's so funny because I interviewed people like Kristen Ulmer, and she told me that it wasn't, she actually provided everything. She would do the writing. She would do the work for the trips. She would always make sure to tell me how pretty she was. And that helped.
I remember starting to see her in the magazines, and one of the most influential images I saw was her jumping off a big cliff, and I think it was maybe 50, 60 for her, and it was probably the biggest thing she did. But no, they published that, and they put that out for some of us to see, and it really inspired a lot of my movement forward and dreams and like staking and all of it.
So it wasn't so much that you were seeing her being pretty, it was seeing her do rad shit in a magazine.
Each time I saw her, it was the rad shit in the magazine that like really caught my eye, and my eyes were like slammed wide open. And then the next picture of her was her driving, I believe, her huge ass pink Cadillac convertible in a like tutu, sitting up on the seat, maybe with like some bull sunglasses on, like sassy pants.
She's a burner.
And it was awesome. I'm like, what? And I remember that's what I really took away from the whole free writing competition scene. Like, would always ask you the same interview questions. What does it feel like? And why do you do it and stuff? My biggest takeaway was that it's so cool to be a girl doing this because you get to be both. You get to be like tomboy and rugged and act like one of the boys right there with dirty jokes and the farts and them having sex in the bed next to you sometimes. Some of them were big fat whore bags. And they could get away with it because they're a dude, right? But if a girl did that, whoa, slam. You're straight to the bottom of the trash there, sister. And we took away from it is you get to kind of do both. You get to go out dancing at night in a discotheque in South America all night and act girly and maybe on someone or whatever, have a crush and go out and do what the boys do in the day and go be a girl again. And then
yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful.
But it's just what
experience.
We're humans. And now it's more accepted and more common women to do it. It was very few and far between. It was constantly with all boys. But I understand that.
And that's awesome. In some ways, you do feel special, and maybe somebody does put you under his wing. And yeah, in other cases, I'm sure you felt it too. You feel you are a direct competitor in their eyes. You're a threat. And so you get...
Yeah, but you were never going as big as they were off jumps or doing the tricks they were, I think. And there's a little bit of that too, like you were still the girl.
Yeah, so ironic because you're still quite feminine. You get to be with the guys all the time. That ever influence like you going more bigger, or tell me about that part? Because I think it's something that people don't really talk about. We're in this whole raw girl power space, but a lot to men.
And I think it's truly like kind of your testosterone. As women, we have both estrogen and testosterone, and there's a certain level that we all carry that's all very unique and individual. How much your body needs, processes, has.
But it also develops more. I mean, this is a tangent, right? But it also develops more when you actually challenge do it in those ways. So it's like, I
think I learned to put myself in these uncomfortable situations, failing sometimes, succeeding sometimes, and taking risks. Yep. And the reward to me was bigger than I guess it still is. Could really hurt myself worse at older age being here now. But I don't see it as that big of a risk because the reward is so big. What was your original question though?
Well, we just kind of went on a tangent. We'll go ahead and stop now, and we're going to pick up though.
Yeah, this is so fun.
Thanks for listening, Unicorn. This is part 1 of a 2-part series of interviewing AJ and attempting to tell her full story, which is incredibly inspiring, including the first descent of the Grand Teton on teleskis, as well as really peaking in her older years as an athlete and a human in terms of success, overcoming all kinds of disappointment to find success and love later in life. I feel like these heroes are needed now more than ever versus the typical stories that we all hear where people are peaking in their 20s. We are fundraising right now and have a partially funded film coming out about AJ and her story. So if you'd like to hear more, get in touch. We need help there. Thanks for listening, Unicorn. Start to finish. If you found value, please share this episode with someone who could brighten their day. Leaving a review on iTunes would be super appreciated on my side. And if you'd like to learn more about this season's ski trips to Jackson Hole and Alaska, make sure to message me on my socials. We have very limited spots. Also, check out the show notes for more free inspirational content. And lastly, I love and appreciate reading your feedback. I'd love to hear who you'd like to see on the show. Until next time, see you in the mountains.